The faces and places may change, but the phenomena does not. The linkage to the central nervous system and this hypersensitivity to electromagnetic and geomagnetic fields, and then the being seizure prone or epileptic. And when I did, what was that guy that Art Bell, like 20 years ago? I talked about this a little bit on there. And all these calls came in. People, they're epileptic, and when they don't take their medication, phenomena breaks out. They take the medication, the seizures stop, and the phenomena stop.
Keep watching to learn more. For early access to our videos and live stream events, sign up for our free weekly newsletter at newthinkingaloud.org. New Thinking Aloud is presented by the California Institute for Human Science, a fully accredited university offering distant learning graduate degrees that focus on mind, body, and spirit. The topics that we cover here. We are particularly excited to announce new degrees emphasizing parapsychology and the paranormal. Visit their website at cihs.edu.
Book 4 in the New Thinking Aloud dialogue series is Charles T. Tart, 70 Years of Exploring Consciousness and Parapsychology, now available on Amazon.
Thinking Aloud. Conversations on the leading edge of knowledge and discovery with psychologist Jeffrey Mishlove.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jeffrey Mishlove. Our topic today is poltergeist agents. That is, individuals who are responsible for recurring, spontaneous psychokinetic phenomena. My guest is Dr. Barry Taff. Barry has his doctorate in psychophysiology with a minor in medical engineering at UCLA. I first met him in the mid-1970s when he worked there at the parapsychology laboratory of Dr. Thelma Moss, which was part of the Neuropsychiatric Institute at UCLA. Barry is also the author of an interesting book called Aliens Above, Ghosts Below, Explorations into the Unknown. If you haven't watched the first interview with Barry, I highly recommend it now, and I'm linking to it. You can click right in the upper right-hand corner of your screen for that. This is the second of 4 interviews, and the conversation was a lengthy one, and we're going to begin with Barry describing an incident that occurred in the 1970s. And now I will revert back to the video that was recorded in Barry's home in Palm Desert, California.
About the same time, I met another girl when I was teaching at UCLA, and she used to be my doctor's daughter. I didn't even know that he had a daughter from decades earlier. And we began dating, and what was her name? Risa. And we were together. Really interesting poltergeist things occurred. We're watching TV, and a can of Coke, flies across the room. We're in bed, and the record player comes on, and there's song, but she didn't put records in. It was like one thing after another, and I couldn't stop it. I couldn't make it occur. In, the early 80s, I kept having a dream that I met a young Barbara Eden. I Dream of Jeannie. We were dating. I'm going, why do I keep seeing this? But I'm going to keep seeing it. I go, wait. So the summer ends, go to start teaching my class in parapsychology, Beverly Hills Adult Education class. The new students all come in, and one of them is a young Barbara Eden. Her name was Linda, and we were talking during the break. She goes, do we know each other? I got a weird feeling we know each other. Now, the dreams I had about this blonde, I knew her mother's name was Mary. And she drove a blue car with a gray interior, a Ford Pinto. She had to wear coordinated clothing, but she was not in the military or the police. So we start talking, we start dating. Mother's name was Mary. She drove a blue Pinto with a gray interior. She worked at some bank where you had to wear a certain uniform or costume. And when we were together, amazing things happened. We'd come back to her place or something, and all the plates were outside in the living room stacked up. The classic Poltergeist activity. We'd be in her bedroom, and we were banging in the kitchen, the full stuff was on the floor again. Little things kept happening. And then her biological clock was ticking very loudly, and she wanted me help make it ring, and I had no interest in that. So the relationship was strained, and she knew it, and I knew it. And one of the last things that happened was we were leaving her apartment, and the deadbolt locked itself from the inside and wouldn't let us back in. It was her way of saying, get out, a projection. She'd come home and find clothes laid out on the bed. What? Where it's amazing. The physical phenomena is so unique because it contradicts everything we know about reality. Now, think about this for a second. A man, let's say 6 feet tall, 220 pounds. In order for some force to move him, or a piece of matter, let's say non-organic matter, to move it requires energy. And energy creates heat when it does work. And usually when you're near these objects, they move, they're not hot, they're often cold. So that contradicts the second law of thermodynamics. When things appear out of nowhere, boom, something's there. Before I left LA several years ago to live down here, for example, I put my phone down on my desk at home because if I'm not using it, my cell phone. I come back to get it, it's gone. Can't find it. Day later, I come out, open the refrigerator door, boom, falls right in front of me. 3 large medication vials got sent to me in a brown padded mailer. They were in my closet. They're gone. They're there. They're gone. Took some pills out, put them on the desk one night before they could go to sleep, and I take medication. They're gone. They're not on the floor. They're not in the wastebasket. They're gone. Months later, I'm in the kitchen putting in the light. I look down. They're on the top of the gasket that seals the door to the fridge. I got into my car years ago to get in. The seatbelt is tied in a knot, which means something had to remove it from up here, knot it up, and then reattach it. But that wasn't done. So how did it happen? Why did it happen? But let's go to the field work is different.
Well, let me just ask you a question, Barry, because these stories happened around you. It would suggest that you yourself are a psychokinetic agent of some sort.
When I was young, I didn't have any physical phenomena around me. It was all the ESP type stuff. No big deal. Okay. As I've grown older, the psychokinetic stuff is manifested, which supposedly linked to younger people when they're, they go through glandular changes or hormonal fluctuation. But it seems like now, things are more likely to happen on a physical level than a mental level.
And of course, you've been exposed to a lot of poltergeist agents as a result of your work.
Hundreds, maybe. But see, here's what I think. Okay, let's talk to the physical phenomenon. We spoke of the mental. Let's spoke of the physical.
Even when you experience illnesses, as you described earlier, sitting in the proximity of a sick person, that's physical already.
You're sensing information, or are you sympathetic? It's a sympathetic resonance with the person near you.
So when you spend a lot of time around poltergeist agents, some of it apparently is rubbed off on you. Now,
let me go backwards a little bit.
Yeah.
there's a formula, in my opinion, that creates the poltergeist activity we speak of. Part of the formula is location, location, location. Geomagnetic anomaly, electromagnetic anomalies, high fields of energy. That's one. Secondly, you got a person who's hypersensitive to those energies. Third, has very poor coping mechanisms for stress. 3 is either seizure prone or epileptic.
That's 4.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, of course, they have a hypersensitivity to those environments. If all those elements work in the right way, phenomena may occur. And the last thing is what I would refer to as, but I'm trying to think of the term. I don't use this. There was, it's a coupling mechanism between people and the environment. Inductive resonance coupling. So let's say you're in the right location with the energy, the crazy energy. You're hypersensitive to it. You have no coping mechanism. You're seizure prone or epileptic. And then your system's got to link up to the thing through inductive resonance coupling. When that happens, wham. Wow. Look at all this stuff going on.
That sounds like, frankly, the most sophisticated theory of poltergeist that I have so far heard.
And this is where it gets more interesting. Okay, the battery of instruments I took out over the years. We got a lot of them in the 90s. Low frequency spectrum analyzer. Okay, expensive little toy. Geomagnetometer. Expensive little toy. Air ion counter. Expensive little toy. Now, we can measure bioelectric fields very easily. Very easy to measure that. Biomagnetic fields are very different because their amplitude is extremely low, like millionth as strong as the Earth's field. So you take these portable instruments to measure magnetic fields against people, they won't record them. Unless there was a portable, superconducting sensors you could use, which there are none. But if you take our instruments and put them up to a poltergeist station, you're able to see and record their magnetic energy because they're putting out thousands of times more power than the average person. What a coincidence. And we ask a lot of questions on investigation. The form I fill out is anywhere from 4 to 12 pages long, depending on the people. Ask, their age, their ethnicity, their job, their education, where they work, if they any medications they take, the dosage, the frequency, how long they've been on the medication, what they were diagnosed with, any recreational drugs they may have. Do they have a history either with themselves or family members, either seizure prone or epileptic? And we keep seeing the same pattern over and over again. People are seizure prone, they're epileptic, they're seizure prone. But here's what's weird. Well, the majority of poltergeist agents tend to be either seizure prone or epileptic, and it could be simple having focal seizures. I'm about to go by grand mal, not even petite, just focal seizures. If that's coupled with the right environment, you have the coupling between them and the environment, and boom, things happen. But most people come and go, and nothing happens. But it's the coupling, the ability to link people with the environment that will possibly tear it apart. A case 2007 in Pomona, or anyway, a woman. So her husband and the daughter moved into a house about 10 years earlier, fixer-upper. And then weird things start happening. They hear voices, lights coming around, things are moving, And then suddenly her husband starts freaking out and tries to kill her. So the cops get him, bring him in, and give him a full psych evaluation. They examine him. He comes back, he seems to be okay. More phenomena. And then out of the blue, he pulls out a gun and he blows his head off in the dining room. And it was then discovered that years earlier, the man who owned the original house had killed himself in the same way on the exact same spot. And he said, what's weird about this? That before this happened, I suddenly was diagnosed as being epileptic. Is it relevant? I go, it's always relevant. The faces and places may change, but the phenomena does not. The linkage to the central nervous system and this hypersensitivity to electromagnetic and geomagnetic fields, and then the being seizure prone or epileptic. And when I did, what was that guy Art Bell, like 20 years ago? I talked about this a little bit on there. And all these calls came in. People, they're epileptic, and when they don't take their medication, phenomena breaks out. They take the medication, the seizures stop, and the phenomena stop. Now, given this, you could do some interesting studies on the phenomena, but you have to spend a lot of money and put the careers of medical doctors at risk, because otherwise people would think they were crazy. Yeah, you do functional MRIs, do PET scans on them, MEGs on them, EEGs on them, do a battery of other tests. I'd be willing to bet you'd see certain patterns in the nervous system. Now, while almost all the poltergeist agents appear to be seizure-prone or epileptic, most people who are seizure-prone or epileptic are not poltergeist agents, which means that in the middle, there's a missing or unknown variable. That being, we don't know.
Well, you've talked about coupling with the environment.
Inductive resonance coupling. Yeah. But it could be that they have no coping mechanism for the stress, and the result between that and the environment happens. But the number of times with me, I've been holding things like medication, and suddenly my hand would get really like numb, like really cold, and the stuff would fall out of my hand and gone. Where'd it go? Nowhere. There's nowhere for it to go. Still happens to me, not regularly. I thought, where is it?
Dematerialization.
It's always a cold tingling sensation. But see this, but now we take it on. Let's go to a case which shows the psychodynamics of these phenomena. 1974. The lab is up and running. My old colleague, Kerry Gaynor, is in Hunter Books in Westwood, used to exist, and he's talking to a friend about the work he and I were doing, and the woman in the next aisle was Doris Byther with one of her friends, as the movie accurately depicted. So she overhears Kerry speaking to his friend, and she goes, "Oh, by the way, my house is haunted." Rather than talking to her in the middle of a store, let him get your name and number. Come out to visit her about a week later, Culver City, California, Braddock Drive. Broken down little ramshack of a home, twice condemned by the city. I don't know why she was living there, couldn't afford anything else. Here was a woman, she would not give us her age. Very, very closed, very unresponsive to many questions. If people don't want to give us basic information, I just get up and leave. It's a waste of time. The very first thing she tells us is she's been repeatedly raped by a ghost. And we went, oh God, roll our eyes back. Raped by a ghost. She's out of her mind. She's at a psychotic break. So we listened to her. We thanked her for her time and we left. What are we supposed to do? Hey, go see a psychiatrist. Get some help. This is parapsychologist. We're not psychiatrists. A week later, she calls back. A neighbor and a friend had witnessed things around her. Okay. Go back to her place. Very hot. August 22nd, 1974. And we're in the kitchen, lower cupboard door pops open, and an iron skillet goes flying out across the kitchen. Drops. Go into her bedroom, which had a horrible stench of decomposing organic matter. And she said that there are 3 male entities. One bigger, older, one bigger one, 2 smaller. 2 would hold her down, the 3rd one would rape her. Can't prove or disprove this. Now, it should be said up front, she had 4 children. A very young daughter we never met. Thankfully, because too young to deal with this. And 3 boys. An older one and 2 younger, smaller ones. So, she had seemed like some psychosexual problems. She a little too, had some problems in terms of emotions. She wouldn't answer a lot of our questions. Anyway, we began experiencing things. We started seeing these unusual balls of light, what I would call corpuscular masses. And we were able to get one picture of one of the balls. It looks like a comet with a tail on it. There was no reference. We didn't know where it was coming from, going to. We don't know the speed it was traveling at. So we then decided we put up black poster boards all over her bedroom. On the ceiling, on the walls, everyone would have a number and magnetic orientation. So we had a reference grid. So over time, things began to happen. And we had a horrible odor. Brought a Hewlett-Packard sniffer. Could not determine where the source of the odor was. At one point, the fuse box was ripped out of the wall, thrown at her. One point, she was in her bedroom, and she said that the cardboard, the sheets of dark matter was torn off and thrown at her.
These are pieces of cardboard that you had put
black
up.
Poster boards.
Poster boards.
And with duct tape.
You had pasted
Carrie
them.
and I covered her bedroom, but that's where the phenomena was focused.
In order to help you make better observations.
Exactly, right. And also steal the house off from external lighting sources. So we're in the bedroom, we see lights flopping around, and we're brought in several professional photographers with different cameras. We filtered it to a deep red gel on the light, on the flash, and we're shooting Kodak Tri-X. That was the most sensitive film, and we pushed it in development. And so at one point, there were lights zipping around Doris, and the best photo we had of her, she's on her bed in her little tiny bedroom, and she's cowering below an arc of light. It frames her. Now, what's interesting about this light, and Carrie mentioned this right off the top, that the walls behind Doris met at a 90-degree angle. But the light was not bent in accordance with the wall. That means the light was in space. We were seeing lights flying around her. We also got another shot of in the bedroom, but Doris is not in the frame. And there's two arcs. One this way, like this. Doris was not in the frame. When we got some strange lights we saw coming through the door, took pictures with a Polaroid. We got one strange light. Nothing should have been there. So at one point, we're in a room, and she said that her kids, if they played certain music, the phenomena would react to it. Okay, so they're hearing it. The music's very agitating and very nervously oriented. It's Black Sabbath.
Heavy metal.
Yeah, Black Sabbath, a thing called the Acrobat. I don't know. I remember a long time ago. So,
but this is music that sort of evokes diabolic images.
Oh, and the kids, there are three boys.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. Sure enough, lights are flying around the room, zipping, and we do something. And all of a sudden we hear, and somewhat see, even though it was really dark, the duct tape's being ripped off the ceiling.
Mm-hmm. The duct tape that you would use
to seal the cardboard.
Yeah.
It flies Doris, hits her in the head. There are 20 people in that room. Whew, hits Doris, didn't hurt her. Another one flies off, and do it again, whipped it off. We asked it, Carrie kept saying, if you're here, do something. So duct tape's ripped off, whew, flows at her. Another one just misses her. She's freaking out, but we were there. And it was amazing because at one point, the lights coalesced to the corner of her bedroom. You could see it from about the lower diaphragm up, a very tall man, well over 6 feet, somewhat muscular. You could see the orbits of the eyes, the brow ridge. You could see the jaw, the pectorals, the whole bit. And it was dynamic. It was not stationary. It was like it was looking at us like this. And then, poof, like a light going on. Now, all the lights we saw prior to and since were all the same lime green color. Why, I can't tell you. Now, she claimed there were 3 male entities. She had 3 boys. You don't have to be a psychoanalyst or a therapist to realize the psychodynamics that might be occurring here. Yeah. She was very overly, all her children, each was from a different man. And she walked around half naked most of the time with her kids home. And they just accepted this as normal. But it's got to affect them. So my guess is we were seeing the physical manifestation of Doris Beither overly active libido. And she wanted to have sex with her oldest kid.
I seem to recall as well from your description that she also was often inebriated.
Yes, many times she seemed to be not drunk, but yeah, she was drinking a lot. And the one time where nothing really happened, she wasn't drinking. Dr. Moss came there once. And, nothing much happened that night. But we did invoke Frank D. Felita, who I'd known from years earlier when he did the Stately Ghosts of England. We met him, and he came out and viewed some of the stuff, and with a friend who was a producer and a writer, and it was amazing. He was, and all with these strange lights zipping around. But the bottom line is, at one point, we had about 20 people witnessing the same thing at the same time. So Kara and I said, don't talk about it, write it down. Write down what you saw, and we read it the same. So in reality, there's mass hysteria, but there's no such thing as a mass hallucination. If, let's say, there were 20 people there at one point, you'd think there'd be variation. If it was an image that's in their minds, what was occurring was not real. They would have variation but they all saw the same thing. So anyway, Doris finally moves, She drank not a lot, but enough that you could know of it, could smell it a little bit. She finally is able to move. She got job after job. She moved from Culver City to Carson. And she had contacted Frank because he was interviewing her. He had wanted to write a book about the case, which was eventually called The Entity, which became a motion picture. So Frank found her. We went out there. And with Carrie and I and others, and we're trying to make something happen, and a large vase flew across the room, missed all of us, hit the floor, and spilled the contents on the floor. We had an amplified microphone kept there, listening to what we're doing and saying, and you hear something moving towards it, like a footstep, another footstep, and then drag. Footstep, like the mummy from the old Universal horror film, and then heavy breathing, like got right up to the mic and turned that machine off. So the question is, what did we record? Why could we not record what we saw? We saw this apparition, fire cameras, fire, boom, 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 fire. Nothing. We didn't see arcs framing Doris Byther. So what was going on? Again, if I had to make a bet, the bet would be that we were witnessing the psychokinetic manifestation of Doris's enraged and unfulfilled libido. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's more compelling than if it was the ghost. Because when you get down to the discarnate thing, you can't prove, you can't disprove it. There's always the what if. But before I reach the most outlandish thing, I want to deal with what we know and eliminate everything. The normal things, then you reach the paranormal, you eliminate boom, 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 boom. And once you run out of the obvious, you go, we've got a problem here. There's nothing else left. And now Doris died in, I believe, 1997 of supposedly cardiopulmonary arrest. They didn't know why her body decided to stop. She wasn't that much older than me, 8 or 9 years older than me, I think, but she wouldn't tell us. And you got 3 out of her 4 children. One is somewhat normal, for what I've heard. The others have serious drug and alcohol, substance abuse problem. I read an interview that one of her sons had with Javier Ortega, ghosttheory.com. I read the interview several times, and the one of that Doris's son must have contradicted himself 24 times as he was say this, contradict it, say this, contradict. So what happened? It contradicts. Once you have that, you ignore what they're saying because it's who cares? So that was an amazing case. But beyond that, a couple of years later, we had a case in the Hollywood Hills called the Hollymont Drive case. And we were up there one night. A student at UCLA came in the lab and he was freaking out. He'd been at a party the night before at a house. The address is 6221 Hollymont. It's a huge old home. Been renovated recently. And things are flying around, banging noises. He said a woman was pinned against the wall by a throne chair, and a kettle came off the stove and dumped water on her. So we've got to go to the house, talk to people. Go to the house, things start happening. Boom, one thing after another. Fires break out spontaneously. Power goes on and off spontaneously. We're standing in the foyer. There's a huge black iron chandelier. Lights go out for a second. They come back on. There's some kind of a thick towel wrapped around it. But it wasn't there. It was there. The doorbell wasn't connected. The doorbell would start ringing, but it wasn't connected. An object flew at me, flew at Carrie, my old colleague. It's on my website. It's called The Hollywood Haunting, As Good as It Gets. And we now know things we didn't know back then. 2 active earthquake faults intersect almost directly under that house. And there's a shallow river under the house. So you have very strong hydromagnetic and geomagnetic phenomena there. And we didn't have any instruments back in the mid-70s. They didn't exist. And Carrie and I got to live in the house for about 10 days when it was an escrow. And one point, I remember I'd made a glass of iced tea. I put it down on the sink to try and get some lemon out of the refrigerator. I turned back, the glass is gone. I found it through 2 doors I just locked in another room in the house. At one point, I was installing a new phone, and suddenly the jack blows out of the wall and goes flying over me. A fire broke out upstairs. We open the front door, hundreds of poker chips, plastic, come flying at us. Yet there's no one there but us. There's the neighbor, man named Dexter Gray, who lived just to the east, a big house like the one we were looking at. He was renovating it when he moved in, leaning against a built-in shelving unit, and it opened up like a bad movie. Goes down the steps, discover, there's a tunnel running under the hill, connecting the homes from Prohibition era. Oh. And he's exploring it, first alone, then with a neighbor and a friend, and they find a headstone in a grave. The name is Regina, 1922. Huh? Somebody was buried there? The house, we were last up there in 2008, and now we had instruments. Let's start with the best to work backwards. We're about to leave after a couple hours, and so I had a big Pelican case. I took my instruments in, and it was very imperfect. We got there. I go to pick it up to put the instruments back in, and on the bottom of the case is carved a backwards R, a lazy R. Wait, the name of the woman down below is Regina. If in order to carve into the case, you would have needed a chisel and a hammer to start it. It was deeply carved. Well, who did it? And when? Instruments at some point started going nuts. And second story, big ball light came towards us, which Barry Conrad, my colleague at the time, captured. In the bathroom, we were taking pictures. One picture showed a perfect arc of colors, like a rainbow. Just the upstairs bathroom repeatedly caught fire. A bathroom catching fire. What? So the house had terrible water erosion damage. And it was old. It was renovated. It's been renovated, but it's kind of weird looking because they're a mixture of modern and old work, and it looks horrible. But we were in there in 2008, and then the current owner was a man named Abdi Manavi. Great guy. Let us come in and run around the place, take pictures, and things happen, objects appearing, objects disappearing.
And no obvious poltergeist agent.
No. Now, in the original investigation in 76, we were all young. At one point, the news crew from KTTV, they had a thing of napkins fly at them. Then they had coasters fly at them. And at one point, Carrie and I are in this cupboard, and thousands of pennies are raining down. We're turning it out, and from nowhere, reporting the raining pennies. And then the news crew was freaking out. So they ran out of the house. And as they ran out, the news, Connie Fox was the journalist, and she's talking and things had zipped by her. They ran out of the house down the Z-shaped stairwell. They ran out of the house. A big book, Dun and Bradstreet, comes flying over the house, flopping its pages, makes 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns, and drops at Connie's feet. And she never returned after that. The street light in front of the house during the daylight was blinking on and off, just in front of that house. That, to me, might be one of the most haunted locations I've ever visited. The question is it haunted because because the energy is there, which amplifies what happens with some people? But when we were there in 2008, it was really quiet compared to what it was in 76. But in 76, we were all in our 20s, raging hormones, different bodies, different brains. It's interesting, there were crews there from other new shows, and they couldn't take it in the house. They ran out. The house is still there. I don't know if anyone owns in it, if anyone moved in yet, but it's
So it certainly is suggestive of the possibility of a discarnate agent.
the most amazing thing I've ever experienced happened in 1992 in a case in, where was it? Oh, I forgot the area. Really great Hispanic family. Wonderful people. The Ramirez. Great people. And a lot of strange things happening there. They had a young, it was a multi-layer family, big house, 2-story home. And the son was named Nico. Really nice young man. And really liked the people a lot. They were very normal. They were terrified. Banging things, moving around. Apparitions, Loomis anomalies. So we're there at one point. Now, here's the strangest thing that's ever happened to me. Imagine the dining room. There was a large marble table, probably weighed 800 pounds. At some point, it was just jumping up and down, like it weighed a feather, like a couple of micrograms, up and down. Then at times, that room would violently shake from no source. But rooms right next to it, there was no movement or sensation of shaking, which is impossible. The room's connected by floor, by ceiling. So if this room's shaking, you're gonna feel it there. Not as strongly, but the room's shaking and nothing's going on there. But that can't happen. Yes, it can. But how? How can you isolate if it'd be like shaking this table really hard and not expecting to see this thing move? You can't. Won't happen.
Well, that could happen if it was a psychological phenomena. If you didn't have,
it was you were seeing it in your mind.
Yeah.
But listen, the people in the other room could see us being moved. They saw everything shaking.
Several people, multiple witnesses.
Like 9 people would see it shaking, and yet nothing was happening to them.
Were you making recordings?
We did, but a lot of times the tapes would be screwed up. Beverly Conrad was with me there. Other people were with me. Things happened in the kitchen. The stove kept pulling itself away from the wall, banging noises. And that case faded away as the child grew up.
Well, it certainly suggests that reality itself is much more malleable than we realize.
And then one of the latter cases I investigated was on Cielo Drive, a few doors down from where the Sharon Tate murders happened in 1969. And a friend of mine, whose voice reminds me of you, he brought me up there. He was hired to do publicity. A guy wanted him for a movie he made. So I've known Steve Rubin for decades. I met him actually, we were kids. I met him again where he was one of a publicity unit for the Entity movie back in 1981 when we shot it. And so he calls me, there's this weird case going on Cielo Drive in Benedict Canyon, not that far from where I lived at the time. We go up there, really eroded road. It's a private road, and whole new homes built there. We go in the guy's house, and instantly I started feeling dizzy and nauseous. I was going to pass out. And You interview the guy, and the guy wouldn't answer any questions about his health, questions about medication, questions about drugs. We found that out later. And he moved in there a couple of years earlier. They built the house. The location has the most powerful geomagnetic field I've ever recorded. Sometimes over 100 times normal. Actually, it's over 1,000 times normal. And you'd go polarize. One part of the house would be positive fields, negative fields, and the amplitude would go up and down depending on the environment. I was there. I worked on and off there for more than a year. I got sick there 16 times and ended up in the ER. It tore me apart. My stomach, my neck, my joints. People who came in there had perfectly healthy people, no pre-existing conditions. They got sick when they were there. And one night we were filming there, and there was a news crew, and they had the truck on the street in front. The truck collapsed. The electronics all went dead. Call another truck. It stayed down below, worked a little better. But the case was incredible because the continuity of the data, the level of magnetism was so high, and 68% of the people that came there got ill. None of them knew about the environment before they arrived. And at one point, I'm standing next to this news guy, and suddenly our instrument drew full-scale deflection, and we both almost passed out. Like, oh, what's going on? And like a door opening, like a door closing. And I'm leaving the kitchen one time, and a glass of water comes flying right past me, hits the floor. Disembodied voices. If you hold on to the stairwell at the back of the house that goes down to the other floors, it's so strong, it numbs out your arms. You hold it in your body, it would become numb. And like I said, there's no power on this planet that would get me to go back there.
So would you attribute that to geomagnetic?
Well, the reason I kept going back, we learned a lot. It helped. The experiences we had there somewhat consolidated and validated everything we suspected for years. That's why it's the article on my website about it, which will be in my new book. The Seal Drive Convergence, the ultimate field laboratory. It was like, this provided it's like in the movie, the original Haunting. Okay, The Legend of Hell House as well. They both dealt with phenomena, trying to document it in these homes, and they trying to measure and then validate what's going on. This place provided everything we needed. The person who owns the house, for what we were told, even though they wouldn't tell us about this, has seizures. Very likely he's epileptic. He's woken up, big knots in his head, blood coming out of his mouth, falling on the floor. So he's living in the most psychokinetically volatile environment ever.
And was he there when these things occurred?
Always.
I see.
He moved in, and shortly thereafter. Now we're building the house. The magnetic fields were so strong they didn't know where to drill to put the stanchions in, the metal girders for the foundation. Now we're measuring these incredible magnetic fields. Now magnetic fields parallel the Earth, electric fields vertical. But because of all the iron pieces of the environment there, they're permeating or emitting magnetic fields in the wrong way. So instead of the field running this way, get magnetic fields running vertically, plus the electric field. And one time we had a storm coming in, lightning and thunder. And at one point, one of our things jumped to 2 kilovolts per meter. That's it. I'm out of here. Lock everything up and leave. The first night I was there, we go back to get some batteries for instruments, and we see this one case that had a soft top for cameras and stuff. The top was going like that. Like I said, it was an incident there in 2014, I believe, where a picture was taken. There was a woman there, and she seemed to be having a mild seizure. Very bad reaction. Another woman there who didn't even really knew her took a picture, and she saw nothing. But the picture shows these incredible energies wrapped around the woman's head. And I spent 2 days enhancing it, the photo, different frequency, wavelengths of light. And I think, by accident, they may have captured the first optical analog to someone having a seizure in a high geomagnetic environment. It's an optical analog. And no matter how I analyze it, it gets stranger. And she started to shake like that and having a seizure. The case is so volatile that I was asked to go up there for one of Zach Bagans' show back in 2014. Nope. If you want, I'll be happy to you can interview me somewhere else, my house, your hotel room, but I will not go back to that house. Mm-hmm. And wouldn't go back. And then they went there. And, I'm very skeptical of the things these shows say because it's a show to entertain the public. It's not a show for science. It was an amazing case. But it was interesting. After that is when all hell started breaking out around me. The physical phenomena. This girl who came up to the house, a friend before who I eventually went out with one, she said, "You want to spend the night here?" Or, No. Why? I'm afraid I might not wake up. What? I'm afraid I would die if I stayed here. It messed my body up so severely just being in that house.
That's what she told you? Or
no, that's what I told her. And I said there was no force or money that would make. If someone said to me, "I'll buy you a 918 Porsche and pay for the first 10 years insurance and your gasoline if you stay here," I would say no, because I'll be dead. I can't use the car if I'm dead. Yeah. That was the greatest biotoxic environment I've ever been in, ever. What's interesting, we know that negative polarized magnetic fields are somewhat good for humans in the right way. Positive polarized fields can rip us apart. This place would jump back and forth, and it was amazing. Another case we had was 1989, the San Pedro case, and this learned a great deal from Jackie Hernandez. Barry Conrad and I went down there. Jeff Wheatcraft, a couple other people were there. Strange liquids dripping from the walls. We took sampled human blood plasma, things flying around. Barry caught some strange Loomis anomalies. Now, but what gets really amazing is the phenomena. In the house, our equipment would go crazy. Other crews came there. Their equipment would fail in a bungalow. This is in San Pedro. They'd go out and come back on. Go back in, it would die. So the case winds down, and after Jackie had visited Barry Conrad at his home in Studio City, after she left, phenomena would break out. Classic poltergeist agent. I go, why is it happening there? And then she went to some other place that followed her there. She moved up north in Northern California, somewhere in, I don't know where. Phenomena followed her there, which Barry and Jeff experienced. My father had a heart attack, so I couldn't help him at that time. And then I thought, why? Okay, well, we learned something now. Okay. And why did the phenomena keep attacking Jeff Wheatcraft? He tried to hang him in the attic, wrapped the clothes on him, almost killed him. He had a burn in his neck. And then it threw him into the wall again at Barry's house. And glass was flying around. Fires broke out at Barry Conrad's home. Go, why is this? Okay. So she moves into this little place in San Pedro. It had very likely had a really unusual geomagnetic signature to it, or electromagnetic. It charged her up. She then moved from the environment, and it would bleed off of her as she moved. And then why did it keep attacking Jeff? She was attracted to Barry Conrad, which most women were. He looked like Elvis, tall, dark hair, blue eyes, very affable, friendly, helpful. And she liked him, and Jeff was always in the way. It kept attacking Jeff. I expressed this to her one of the shows I was on with her, and she said, I hated Jeff. Jeff was getting in my way with Barry. And I said to the producer, this is a psychokinetic manifestation of Jackie's hatred of Jeff. It's what's attacking him. She's telling the ghost. I go, there's no ghost. It's Jackie's subconscious, it's monsters from the id.
Yeah. Right out of Forbidden Planet.
Then, after she visits, Barry phenomenon breaks out. We didn't know why. Barry was having a brief, he'd invite her over, let her cook, whatever. He'd have sex with her, let her go, bring her back. Other girls would come over. He'd have to kick her out. She was getting really pissed. That's when the phenomenon broke out in Barry's homes. Again, we see it's an extension of her. Now, this is what I felt like a contagion. Let's say you're healthy. So you go to some friend's house, and a couple of them are sick, but you don't touch anything, you wear a mask. You go home, you get sick, you give it to your wife and your kids. That's a vectored pathogen. We know what that is. Mm-hmm. I think there's something identical.
That the phenomena are contagious.
Not as, energy, if you're susceptible to it, can alter you. Mm-hmm. You can carry this energy with you. It bleeds off. Unless it alters you in a way, you keep bleeding it off and bleeding it off. So you carry it, you deposit, and if enough mechanisms here to make it work, it responds. And why people say when you change halted environment to rebuild, things go nuts? Because the relationship of dielectrics to conductors has changed. Energy moves in a different way, and it reacts. But the St. Peter case, so this is what I call the psychovirus. Mm-hmm. And we've seen this since then in other cases.
For early access to our videos and live stream events, sign up for our free weekly newsletter at newthinkingaloud.org.
Book 4 in the New Thinking Aloud dialogue series is Charles T. Tart, 70 Years of Exploring Consciousness and Parapsychology, now available on Amazon.
New Thinking Aloud is presented by the California Institute for Human Science, a fully accredited university offering distant learning graduate degrees that focus on mind, body, and spirit. The topics that we cover here. We are particularly excited to announce new degrees emphasizing parapsychology and the paranormal. Visit their website at cihs.edu. You can now download all 8 copies of the New Thinking Aloud magazine for free, or order beautiful printed copies. Go to newthinkingaloud.org.